Hi, Amanda here with Crafting with Amanda, and today is day 11 of Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches. And the sketch today is from CC Inez, and I'm going to put it up here in the upper corner for you to see. And I have these two photos. My husband was traveling quite a bit actually at the time of life that we're at in these photos. So any time that our kids got to spend with their dad was just wonderful and treasured, and they loved it. Now that I found the photos I want to use, my next challenge is to find the right paper. And I I love the close to my heart paper all coordinates in a kit. And I'm not limited to that, but I tend to rely on it. So I went back into my stash and I found this timber paper pack that just had all the right colors for the photo. I did add wood grain from the wood grain collection because the back side of the wood grain in the timber collection has that beautiful buffalo red plaid in it. And then I also added a piece of shortbread cardstock because that just kind of worked with the background of our wall color. So I went ahead and matted the photos in that. And then in addition to the ruby, sapphire, New England ivy, toffee, I did add the old color of the year from a couple of years ago of bluebell. And I love that color. It just works so well with denim. So here I cut some pieces out of the papers and I'm trying to take a look at the sketch and see what's going on here. And it's funny, it took me quite a while. I played with this sketch for quite a while before it all of a sudden dawned on me that the diamond paper that I have with the red top that in the sketch using to represent that notebook paper actually goes off the left side of what I'm using as that wood grain paper. And I do catch that later on when I'm struggling with spacing and how things work. But for now, it's just going to stay as it is. And then I thought I would use from this tech stamp that I have, these kind of, I don't know, equalizer lines indicating movement in the tech world. But I thought I would use this as that border to replace the scalloped edge in the sketch. So I stamped it all the way across, and you can see you can line it up pretty easily with the clear blocks. And then I just cut it down to length. So now that's going to be my scalloped edge. And I will go ahead and off screen, ink the edges of every paper that's on here. And I cut the pine paper down because I kind of wanted to split it as a layer between the top and bottom. I did also find my punch, and so I punched out two of those little ribbon banners, and I figure I might use those later. So I was just kind of gathering the collection of embellishments that I wanted. If you've watched my channel at all, I love this little Dollar Tree cutting board. I have 3 or 4 of them that I keep around, and I can just kind of pile my embellishments on them, and it's easier to move them and keep my desk clean. So this title came from the die cuts that came or you could get with the paper pack. And this is a kind man is a strong man, and that's absolutely the case with my husband. From the very first time my parents met him, they always referred to Gerald as a gentle man. So, and here I'm going to second generation the circuit board onto 2 more of the banners that I punched out. And I punched those out of the shortbread cardstock scraps. And here I'm just going to assemble things. And I finally figured out at this point that notebook paper represented page goes further to the left. And once I did that, it was like, now I have room for my photos. And I was just trying to figure out how to get it all put on there. I don't know if you've ever had those issues, but for me, it wasn't coming together like I thought it should. And this sketch has a great balance to it. And yet I was not figuring it out until I got that paper off to the left. And here I want to make sure to put the right photo down first because the placement of that is going to determine the placement of the left photo. And I love these photos. My husband is known legend for not being able to take a good picture, whether he tries to or not. And so he's just kind of got into the habit of where I go to take his picture and I'll make a goofy face because as he says, well, it's going to look goofy anyhow. So he took So we made the goofy face for the left photo, and then he was so proud of himself. His reaction is the genuine smile there to the right. And this whole layout just kind of captures some of the personality of my husband and one of the things that I absolutely adore about him. So as I'm looking at this, I just felt that my husband was home, like I said, from Hong Kong. When he was home during these times, he was always just kind of wore out trying to get stuff done for the farm and the semi trucks. And yet, sleep wise, he was on a whole different schedule. So he was just kind of in his comfortable jeans, hanging out with the kids, trying to spend time with them. And so with the ripped jeans in the photo, I decided that I was going to go ahead and tear and do the reveal of some background paper. And it's funny, I spent a long time trying to figure out, okay, so I know if I rip it towards me, that's what the white will show, but I want the white to show on the paper, on the card, on the layout. And it took me much longer than it should have to know how to rip this paper. If you have that problem, give me a thumbs up in the comments so that I know that I'm not alone. And then here, I had trimmed my fingernails yesterday because I need to start playing guitar again and building my calluses. It's been well over a year, so I did have to get my scissors to rough up the edge of the paper because I just couldn't, with my newly trimmed fingernails, get it to rip. And then I made a circle with the red plaid paper, and I thought I would also do the red plaid paper as the background. One of the things on the farm, my husband had some flannel lined jeans because even though our shop was heated, it was only still like 45, 50 degrees. And when you're working out there all day and on the cement floor and up and down, either working on the tractor or the semi trucks, you kind of got cold. Well, there was a rip in them, and then he would wear long underwear underneath and it would peek through. So the red plaid is kind of a nod to the style that I always used to tease him about of, oh, you're letting your knee show. I can see that red poking through. And here, if you haven't done this before, it's really easy. I just added my adhesive runner to the back of my layout and then put my paper down and just trimmed off the extra, and that one piece allowed me to do all three sides there of the layout. I really like how that ripping and the reds are kind of pulling your eye into the photo. I probably wouldn't have picked red if our son didn't have his red pants on, but because all of those colors are there, it just really works for me. And now I'm going to figure out how to put those banners under, and some of that I fuss with so much that I didn't think you needed to watch me do that. So I just glued those down off camera. And then this is another punch. When I was getting out the ribbon punch, I found it's kind of like one of those old Rolodex cards. And I just thought, again, it would add that touch of color to the top. And these came from the sticker sheet from the paper pack. So treasure these moments, which I think is great for any scrapbook layout or most scrapbook layout pages. And then Hello Handsome. I didn't get to see him much, so I had to get all my flirting in while he was home. And the arrow is always good. I pulled out some hearts, and I'm just trying to kind of make some balance. And instead of doing just 3 individual clusters with everything in those clusters, I'm kind of doing groups of 3 in multiple ways. So I had those 2 extra banners, and I wanted to do the looking good, give it something to be anchored on. So that's exactly what I did. I'm trying to slip this other Rolodex file card underneath. And it ended up here that it ended up being like floating by itself, so it just didn't work. And I'll try it a couple more places. I'll try to cover the holes with a heart because maybe that would work. And it's kind of interesting watching it after the fact of how these layouts come together. And now these are just, again, the chipboard elements that I'm putting down. They're just hearts. I love the colors of them. Again, it kind of has some of that toffee color in it, which is perfect for these papers. There were some red or actually ruby color hearts from the sticker sheet that I'm gonna, again, pepper around the page. I thought about getting out some gems, and I didn't feel that it needed it. So this is it. The layout is done. I added my journaling, which just basically talked about his ripped jeans and the fact that dad time was very rare during these couple years that he was traveling overseas. I will have two playlists in my video description, one for all of the gals that are participating in the 31 days of sketches round 10, and then also my personal, in case you've missed any of mine and you want to catch up on them. They're all in one place. So be sure to check that out in the description. Be kind to yourself. Be a blessing.